You're listening to Weight Loss for Life Coaches, episode 25, with Master Certified Life and Weight Loss Coach, Paige Bowman.
Welcome to Weight Loss for Life Coaches, the weekly podcast for coaches who are growing their coaching business and on their weight loss journey. Each week, we'll be tackling why weight loss feels hard and how to make hitting your weight loss goal the simplest thing you do all day. Today, we are talking about my 25-pound weight loss journey, specifically for episode 25. How fun is that? We're going to talk about what my journey looked like, where I was when I started my journey, and where I'm at now. I love these kind of episodes when the host gives their backstory or gives you a really insightful look into what their journey is like or has been like. I just love listening to people's stories and perspective and just to, get to know them more. But also I love hearing about other people's journeys, especially when it comes to weight loss. So I thought, I got to give you mine. We got to do a tell-all for Paige's weight loss journey. So the way I'm going to structure this episode is I'm going to tell you where I was at the point of when I started this last weight loss journey. And then I'm going to talk to you about how I set my goal and what my thoughts were when I decided to lose 25 pounds. And then I'm going to talk to you about the timeline of what that looked like and where I was. And I know I've talked about this before, it being a couple year journey. So I'm going to go and dive deeper into that for you. And then we're going to talk about what my struggles were, my top few struggles on my weight loss journey. And then, of course, I'm going to tell you about the things that I've gained on this journey and what I learned about myself and things that I'm so grateful that I've achieved or have realized because I went on this journey. And then lastly, I will share with you what my journey looks like now and will continue looking like as of right now and into probably the rest of 2022. When I was writing out my notes for this episode, I wrote, where was I up until the point of when I started losing weight? And the first word I wrote down was miserable. And I was trying to think of how I would explain that or explain where I was. And that word really sums it up. So in 2018, that's where we're starting. I just felt I was at my breaking point. I was leaning on food so much. And I felt kind of terrible that entire year. We had just moved to a new city. And that was the first time I had moved in, and especially cities, in, 7 or 8 years. And my husband was starting a new job. I was putting my internship for counseling on hold. And so when we moved, not only was I leaving everyone that I knew, and I had no idea of anyone that lived in this new city, but I was home alone. And now that we've been through COVID, of course, most people know what that feels like, but at the time, that just felt so lonely. And I know you're alone, you feel lonely, but I just felt so lonely. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know how to meet people. I had started at a new church, but I'm pretty introverted. And so unless I'm forced to hang out with people, I don't necessarily go make friends easily. And like I said, I was in between my internship. I had already done one semester of my internship for counseling, and I was supposed to start my second one. But since we moved, I had to put that on pause. And so we moved, and my husband started a new job. My dog just had a surgery on her leg, which was very scary for me. Of course, it was scary for her, but being a dog mom myself, that was almost kind of traumatic going through that for me personally. And so I was just down and out. And this was around, I would say, the beginning of 2018. And I was leaning on food so much. And looking back, I can say at least I had something to manage, to cope, right? It wasn't the best coping mechanism. Of course, I've changed that, but I'm not mad. I don't look back and wish that I hadn't eaten so much and gained so much weight, but that's what I had. That's what I knew is food was a coping mechanism. And I was feeling terrible almost every single day. And so I would eat, even if it wasn't expensive or fancy, it was fast food. It was comfort food, or what I would call comfort food. And so I just had already been gaining weight since I'd gotten back from my last deployment. And then we moved, and then I just kept gaining more weight in the year of 2018. And so, yes, I was feeling miserable, and I was using food to cope with that. And of course, I was still feeling miserable. So I hit this almost breaking point where I was like, something has got to change. And here were like a few things that I really knew I wanted to change. So one, I was tired of not taking care of myself in the way that I knew how. So I wasn't eating the foods that I knew made me feel good. I was eating foods that made me feel bloated and made me feel icky inside. I was exercising, but I hated that I was exercising to lose weight. And it just did not feel enjoyable. And I was beating myself up the entire time I was exercising. And then I would go eat fast food. And in my head, I was ruling out what I did. And so I hated that I was leaning on food, but that I was also exercising and feeling terrible the entire time and not being able to enjoy exercise just for what it was. I hated feeling out of control. And I'm really thinking back to the way I would have described it, and I would have said I felt out of control. I wouldn't have said I had urges. And I know I talked about this in the urges and cravings episode of the podcast, but I had so much desire and so many cravings to eat that I felt out of control. And that was the best way I knew how to explain it. What I was thinking about it was I just can't stop. I can't stop eating. I can't stop eating the foods I was eating. I need food to feel better. So at this point in 2018, just I would say that year in general, I was at the highest weight I had been at. I was almost 160 pounds. And that I didn't even want to see the number on the scale, because for me, that I made that mean a whole lot of things. And so if you paired together how terrible I was feeling, how out of control I was feeling, how I didn't like how I was taking care of myself, and then I had this whole story around the number on the scale being the highest that it had been in a very long time. Or really, it's like, you know how you have that number in your head where you're like, that's my max? That was my max, was 160 pounds. So I knew about coaching at this point. I knew about the Life Coach School. So if y'all don't know, the Life Coach School has, yes, their certification program, but they also have something called Self-Coaching Scholars, which is a monthly coaching program. It's not like a group program. It's like a membership site. And I knew about that, but then I decided to join Jody Moore's program called Be Bold. And in her program, it's very similar to Self-Coaching Scholars, where it really helps you in all areas of your life. And then there's weekly coaching where at the time it was just Jody herself would coach you on whatever was coming up for you or whatever thing you were working on. And so in her program, she had a weight loss set of modules, set of videos, and she coached on weight loss. And so I thought, okay, I like the way that coaches, different than anyone I had ever heard in my past, I like the way coaches talk about emotional eating and over desire. So those were two terms that I learned when I first started this journey. And when I heard the way that my coach described emotional eating and over desiring food, it clicked. I was like, this is it. This is the thing I've been missing. I did a really fancy nutrition program in 2017 that I loved, but it didn't really help me with my mindset or my emotions, which at the time I wouldn't have known that was what was missing. But I've done excessive exercise. I've done cut out all the things from your diet. I've done the shakes. I've done eat, high protein, high fat, low carbs. I've done count your calories, your macros. I've done a lot of the things. But when someone said we eat to not feel our emotions, or we over desire food, not just want food, but we have an over desire food. I was like, oh my gosh, that's what it is. I finally had a name to this thing that I was struggling with, that I was dealing with. And so when I joined Jody Moore's program, I went through her modules and I started practicing some of the things that I teach now, right? Write your food down, plan ahead of time, be realistic, work on not judging or shaming yourself. So I started paying attention, and I even tried it out for a little bit in 2018, but I wasn't ready to commit to the change yet. And I'm kind of jumping into the timeline a little bit, and I want to still talk about my goal. But in 2018, I learned about these things, but I was really wanting to try my hand at entrepreneurship. I didn't know I wanted to be a coach yet. I think I had an inkling, but I wanted to start a business. And so when I joined my coach's program, and I actually joined Self-Coaching Scholars as well with the Life Coach School in 2018, I started focusing on what it would be like to be an entrepreneur. What would I sell? What value would I offer the world? And at this time, I also realized I did not want to be a counselor. The thing that I had been working on for my entire, even in high school and college and almost multiple master's degrees, I realized in 2018 that I did not want to do. And I have my reasons for that. But the main reason was because I didn't want to diagnose. And although that is very helpful and needed, it just wasn't my passion. And so I'm grateful for therapists and I'm grateful for the work they do, but that I realized wasn't my calling anymore. So it's 2018. I'm not sure I want to be a counselor. I'm not even sure I want to finish my master's degree. I've heard about coaching, but I hadn't really sat and thought that that's what I would want to do. I've learned about emotional eating, and I'm also super interested in being an entrepreneur. So that's where I'm at. And I started taking action on being an entrepreneur and thinking about what I would create. Would I create a program or a course? And I started doing this work with my coach, and it was super stressful. On top of feeling miserable, on top of feeling alone, on top of being confused about my career, I was going into the work of being an entrepreneur. And if you're a coach, you're probably not necessarily an entrepreneur, because as a coach, you can work for someone. But being an entrepreneur is putting yourself out there for the world to decide if what you offer is valuable or not. And that's some tough work. My coach, Brooke Castillo at the Life Coach School, says that's the hardest work you'll ever do, is be an entrepreneur. And I was like, you are right. This is so hard on top of everything I was going through in 2018. And I went to food. I was already, right, as I said earlier, going to food to feel better about having moved, about being alone, about really, I wouldn't say I was depressed, but I felt depressed in many moments throughout the year. And then on top of that, trying something new, I was already using food to cope. But when I started dabbling into the realm of being an entrepreneur, I realized that I was using food to cope with that as well. And I think it just all hit me at one point that, yes, I want to do big things in my life. And yes, I may, at this time, it was around the end of 2018. Yes, I actually might want to be a coach and not a counselor, own my own business, not just work for someone. I want to learn how to cope with how hard and uncomfortable that's going to be without food. So here we are in 2019. I am shifting so much in my life, and I know I'm about to do big things. And I decided that I was going to figure out how to cope, what to do with my emotions, and how to not over desire food while I was going to change all these things in my life. So we're in 2019. And I want to talk to you before I continue on with my story or my timeline. I want to talk to you about my goal. Because I was so sold on what my coach was teaching me was the problem, and then what she was teaching me as a solution, I was all in. I knew I would have to figure out a lot and I would have to work through so much, but I was done. I was like, this is it. This is the way. I just know it. And I remember thinking, man, I'm glad I didn't give up. I'm glad I just kept trying the next thing and the next thing. And I'll talk about that at the end, about not giving up. But I was like, this is it. I'm so sold. And then I started taking my coach's Stop Overeating program. And she was talking about setting your goal. And she said, pick a number and then pick the one that feels uncomfortable. So basically, I thought, okay, I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to get to 140. And in one of the videos, she was coaching someone and she was like, well, why not 5 pounds lower? And the person was like, well, that's too much. That's scary. And she was like, make that your goal. Now, I don't necessarily do this with my clients, but the way she talked about it, I was like, she's on to me. She knows that I actually want to lose 25 pounds. I want to get to 135 pounds, but I was very scared of that number because of my past and some things I had to work through around being in a smaller body, about the number on the scale, about all the things that I've made that mean in the past. But I said, okay, I took the coaching and I said, I will make my goal 135 pounds. I will lose 25 pounds. But here's something that's a little bit different. I didn't set a timeline and I kind of had some caveats to my goal. And here's why I bring that up. And here's what I mean. I didn't care how long it took. Like I said, I was so sold on this being the way, on knowing that if I worked through my emotional eating, if I lowered my desire for food, if I learned the tools that my coach was going to offer me, I knew this was it. But what I wanted was to learn how to lose weight in a timely fashion. So in increments of time. And then I also wanted to maintain. And I wanted to learn how to maintain before I hit my goal. And I don't know that I would have said it like that in the beginning, but I know in my head I was thinking, let's just lose 10 pounds and let's see what happens. Let's see if we can maintain that weight loss. So I took the coaching. I set the goal to get down to 135 to lose 25 pounds. Like I said, I had been there before, but I had used other means to get there, like excessive exercise, cutting out food, going low carb, going low calorie, drinking the shakes. And so this time my goal was to teach myself how to get there using these new tools, to do with doing the mindset work, with learning about my emotions, whatever that meant, right? Because I was still new at all this at the time. I wanted to change my story around the number as well. That was a big part of what I knew I wanted to work on, because the last time I got to 135, I was terrified. I knew that I couldn't keep up the things that I had been doing to lose the weight. I also was scared that I was too small. I had a lot of old stories from things that I had heard growing up about being in a smaller body. And so I didn't know how to work through that in the past. And so I knew this time I was going to lose the weight and I was going to work through my mindset around food and my emotions and then my body. So that was my goal. So here we are in 2019. I know I'm about to change my life. I got coached on this. My coach helped me work through all this. And I knew, okay, I'm going to be a coach. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And I'm going to learn how to cope without using food while making all these changes in my life. I look back now and I just think, like, go Paige. This is like such an upheaval if you think about where I was in 2018 to where I was in 2019. And I look back and I think I'm just so glad that I could lean on myself, and I still use that as my story now. I can always lean on myself to get out of that despair, that feeling miserable, that feeling out of control. I didn't give up. I kept pushing forward, and it wasn't easy. The end of 2018, I have this video where it was, sometimes I will record myself on a voice memo if I want to get some thoughts out, or sometimes I'll just record a video, kind of like a vlog, like a video log. But of course, I'm not posting this anywhere. But I was sitting there in my living room. I had just signed up for coach training. This is the end of 2018. I had just started a new job to pay for coach training. And I haven't figured out the emotional eating stuff. I had barely just committed to doing that work. And I was sitting there eating a Bojangles chicken biscuit, which are delicious, by the way. But that was one of my coping. I liked bready things and fried things. very comfort food like. And I recorded this video, and in the video, I just was talking about how miserable I am. And yes, I'm sitting there, and I had learned what the word buffering was at that point, which buffering is when you are basically numbing out. So you're going through something and you're buffering from your experience of that. So that might mean drinking or eating or, binge watching TV. We would call that, it's kind of a coaching term where we would call that you're buffering from an emotion or from your experience or from your own thoughts. So I sat there eating this Bojangles biscuit. I think I just started my new job, and I was like, this sucks so much. I am having a terrible time, and I know I'm making these changes, but it feels terrible right now. And I remember saying in that video that, but I know I'm changing. I know I'm making this change, and I know it's going to work, and I'm figuring this out. So it's very much the whole paradox of I was feeling terrible, but I knew changes were on the horizon. It was just the epitome of where I was at the end of 2018 and in 2019. So here we are, starting coach certification in 2019 and starting to lose weight by working through my mindset, by figuring out what urges were and what to do with them, by figuring out what to do with my emotions and understanding what mastering my emotions meant, by doing thought work, by not just counting calories or doing excessive exercise. And in the middle of 2019, I lost my first 10 pounds doing that. And I remember thinking like, holy cow, I really can do this differently. I mean, as I said earlier, I knew this was it. I knew this was the way, but to lose 10 pounds and then what I decided to do was to maintain that 10-pound weight loss throughout the rest of 2019. And I did. And I remember thinking like, whoa, like I was right. This is it. This is the way. This is working. And I guess I'm going to give you a little of my story as an entrepreneur and starting my coaching business, because I remember at the end of 2019, I hired a business coach to help me pick up my business and get started with that. And she told me to pick a niche. Of course, if you're a coach, you know this niche conversation. Who are you helping? What's your ideal client's avatar like? What do you help them with? This is like very basic business kind of stuff when you start a business. But in the coaching world, I'm sure you've had that conversation with yourself and you've heard people talk about it. And I told her, I thought, well, maybe I'll be a business coach, but I was just getting started. So I thought maybe I'll do something else and then I'll be a business coach, which this 3 years later, I'm cracking up thinking that I am not a business coach. I have had clients and I have helped them with business, but my coaching is weight loss. And that's what I wanted to do. And I told her that I actually think I might want to do weight loss. But what I told her was, but I don't want to just post pictures of food and post recipes and post pictures of my body and do like that basic, tell you what kind of exercise to do, what kind of things to eat or not eat. And she told me, and this was her one sentence was worth the entire cost of working with her. She said, you can do it however you want. If you don't want to do those things, don't do those things. If you want to help people lose weight the way you have been, because she knew that I had been losing weight in this new way, she said, go for it. And that's exactly what I did. So at the end of 2019, not only did I lose 10 pounds and am maintaining it by using mindset work and emotion work and the tools I teach, but I was going to help people with that. And I was going to, what's so fun is make money helping people with that as an entrepreneur, as a coach who owned her own business. So let's move into 2020. I am, right? COVID happened. I am still working on my business. I mean, that's not going to change much throughout this because here we are 3 years into my business, still going strong. But I wanted to try something new with the next 10 pounds, right? Because my goal was to lose 25 pounds. I lost 10 pounds in 2019. I maintained it all through into 2020. And I thought, you know what I love? I love when people vlog, like they do videos of themselves on their journey. I love that stuff. So what if I lost the next 10 pounds and brought people along with me? So from, I would say late spring 2020 until the end of the summer 2020, for 3 months, I recorded a video every single day, like a 10 to 15 minute video, and took my people who I was speaking to on the video, whoever ended up watching it, I took them through every single day the things I was working on, which are the 3 steps, the hunger and fullness scale, and allowing urges, all things we've talked about on the podcast so far. I worked on those 3 things for the 3 months and lost 10 pounds and recorded a video every single day. And that was so much fun. It was very interesting to watch myself work on my integrity because I committed to doing a learn and move on, which is something my coach, it's a worksheet my coach created, which is like, it has you taking a look at an overeat. So if you ate off your plan or if you ate way past full, you would answer these questions and just take the opportunity to learn from what happened. And I committed to my audience when I was recording those videos that I would record or do a learn and move on every single time I overate or ate past full, right? Ate past full or ate off my plan. And I did it. And it was very interesting to watch my brain not want to be super honest with, again, whoever I was going to let watch these videos. I hadn't decided yet. I just started clicking record, but I wanted to keep it all to myself. And that was really a powerful exercise for me to work through why. What were my thoughts around this? What did I think people were going to think? And that was like a bonus practice for me to work through my thoughts around my body, my weight, my eating, my skills and my ability throughout that journey. Fun fact, I still have that. I actually created it and turned it into an email series, so every day you would get a video and written out maybe things like little coaching tidbits or little, how I like to give you all powerful questions. So if you're listening to this and you're like, Paige, I want to check that out, just send me an email at hello@paigewoman.com or send me a message on Instagram at lifecoachpaigeb. And if you ask to get that email series, I will send it to you. I don't put it on my site anymore, but if you're here listening right now, send me a message and let me know you want that losing 10 pounds in 85 days series, and I will send it to you. Okay, so we're at the late end of 2020. I've been in my business for a year. I've lost 20 pounds now, 10 pounds in 2019, 10 pounds in 2020. And again, I wanted to just maintain. I had lost 20 pounds at this point, and I wanted to continue showing myself that I could maintain it. I was not in a rush, even if, I know you're like, Paige, it's only 5 more pounds. Even though it was only 5 more pounds, I just wanted to give myself the abundance of chilling at this new weight I had hit. I hit 140. Actually, I think it was like I chilled out around 142. So altogether 18 pounds then. And I think that was because once I hit 140, I knew I would have to start working on my thoughts and my beliefs and my story around the number 135. So for the rest of 2020 and into 2021, I just maintained right out above that 140 level. So here we are in 2021, the summer of 2021. I've been in business for 2 years now. I've been helping people lose weight for 2 years now, and I'm having a blast. And I've been doing my work around the number on the scale, not just as I was losing weight or maintaining, but that number of 135, my end goal weight. And I was ready to lose the last 5 pounds. And so in August of 2021, I said, all right, I'm committing to the next goal, 5 pounds. Let's do this. It's going to be the last 5 pounds, at least for a while. And let's keep working on my mindset around the number on the scale, around being in a smaller body, and around the fear that came up around the number on the scale. So I did. I lost 5 pounds. I lost those last 5 pounds in 2021. I think it took 3 months. So I did a couple of 3-week-ish kind of experiments, which is what I do with my clients, where we take 2 or 3 weeks. back then it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And now I like the 3 week time period where we take 3 weeks and we experiment with learning a new skill or getting better at a skill or changing something with our food or working on our mindset. And so I did a couple of those. And in the fall of 2021, I hit my goal. I officially had lost 25 pounds and maintained it. The thing I wrote down when I was writing out my notes for the podcast was, especially when I was writing out my timeline, was every time I lost and maintained, so that's 3 times then, I felt like my identity changed. The first time it was like, wait, you can do this differently and it's working. And I think the second time was like, wait, you can just keep getting better at these simple tools. And that's all it takes. And this really is working. And then that last 5 pounds, it was like, no, you're just different now. You really do just cope differently. You really do just think about food and your emotions and your body differently. Now, I want to point out something that I don't talk about very often, but I have had to do a lot of work around my mindset, around the scale, and around being in a smaller body since I hit 135. And I maintained being at 135 for about 9 months. So really until May, when I decided to lose another 5 pounds. And I'll talk about that at the end of the podcast episode. But when I hit 135, the next day, the scale went down maybe like half a pound. So maybe I was at 134.7 or something like that. And I nearly had a panic attack. And I think I didn't realize how strongly my old stories were affecting me or how they really were still there. So even though I had done my belief work and got coached on and self-coached myself around the number on the scale and being 25 pounds down, when the scale went even below that, even just like 0.3 pounds down, seeing that number go from 135 to 134, it just hit me how dangerous that felt. And one of my best coach friends helped me with this, and I'm so grateful for her. But she helped me see what was underneath that. And there are really some stories. And if you go back and listen to Body Thoughts episode, that whole exercise and the whole idea behind questioning your beliefs around bodies from your past and your present, and then being purposeful about what you want them to be in the future came from this, because I didn't realize how strongly I felt or how strongly the story was around being in a smaller body until that number said 134 and it just came crashing down. And so I've done some more work on that and questioned all those old beliefs and all those old stories around bodies that came from society and culture and those I was around and growing up, and then giving myself the opportunity to release those stories. And that's what I've been doing for the last 9 months. I've been giving myself the time and the abundance and just the practice of unraveling those old stories, and then deciding on purpose what I want to think and how I want to feel and what my new stories will be. So that's been some really good work in and of itself, is just questioning everything and then deciding what I want to believe. Okay, now before I talk about where I'm at now, I wanted to talk about what my biggest struggles were on my journey. So the first one being, and I've talked about it a little bit, but really believing that I would maintain my weight loss, because I've been 135 pounds before multiple times, but I just kept gaining the weight back. And I thought, yes, I'm down. I believe that this is the way. I believe that emotional eating and over desiring are my problems. I believe that mindset work and emotional work are the solutions. But am I really going to keep the weight off? Because I never have before. And I think that's why, like I said, my story, my journey is a little bit different, because I knew what I needed to work on and I just gave myself the space to work on it. So really letting myself accept, and like I said earlier, shift into this identity of, yeah, I did do it differently finally, and I didn't give up, and that's another thing that, well, I'll talk about that in a second, but I didn't give up, and I really did figure out how to maintain my weight loss. And that's my new identity. And it took me letting myself practice maintaining for months and months and months, and practicing the new belief that I maintain my weight to just be that person now. And so I look back at my journey and I don't regret any of it. I don't regret how long it took, or the things I let myself work on, or the abundance of time and practice that I gave myself. I think I love my journey. It was amazing. It was very spacious. It was very abundant. I got to my goal, and it took me just over 2 years to get there, and not one part of me regrets any of it. Another big struggle that I had on my journey, or maybe not struggle, but another thing that I had to work on, was recognizing urges as urges. So if you listen to the urges and cravings episode of this podcast, I talk about what urges are, which are the desire to eat something. So you might think about it like a craving if you haven't heard the word urge before. So you have a craving for something. I really had the hardest time recognizing my cravings as cravings, my urges as urges. And it's still something that I am working on mastering to this day. And I don't know that I'll ever get to 100%, but it's a skill that I continue to give myself the opportunity to work on. But that was one of my biggest struggles, was recognizing that I was having an urge, that I was having a craving. And that's something that my clients struggle with as well. And I always tell them, like, listen, I know, right? Been there, still work on that. And here are the things that we can do to help you get better at that. So that was one of my struggles. And then the last one I've already talked about, which is working through my thoughts about being in a smaller body. And so I kind of already covered that, but those three things were the things that I had to work on the most, but also felt the hardest for me. And I think every journey you're going to have what feels like the hardest thing, but even those being the hardest things, I still am so grateful for the work I did on those things, because I feel like a different person. It took me a while to recognize urges as urges, and now I feel like I'm the queen of allowing urges. Even though I'm still working on that skill, I just love the urge jar. I love the idea of being able to be a person who has urges and not being upset about that because you know what to do about it. I just love that so much. So I'm glad that that was hard in my journey, so that I got to work on it and now be really good at that, and now help other people learn how to recognize urges and then know what to do with them. Now I want to talk about what I've gained on this journey, or what I've taken away from it, what I've learned from it. So the first one I talked about already, but now I know, having gone through losing 25 pounds, I know that I can do things that I've never done before, and that not giving up works. I mean, really, truly, just because I haven't done the thing yet, just because I haven't achieved the goal, I now know that that's not a problem, because I showed myself that I will just keep figuring out what the way is that works for me. I will just keep going. I won't stop trying, and that not giving up works. That's the best way I know how to say that. And that's helped me in relationships. That has helped me in my business. And I think it's helped me with dripping that belief into the work I do with my clients, because I don't think society teaches that. I don't think our culture teaches us that there always could be another way. I think that that's not a message we hear very often. Even if it is out there, I don't think it's as prominent as give up, stop trying, there is no other way. So that's one of the things that I love that I've learned, and will forever have that lesson and that new belief with me, that not giving up works, and that I can do things that I've never done before. The second thing that I've gained on this journey is understanding my emotions and how my brain works on a whole other level. And that's helpful in all areas of my life. So maybe what you learned in one journey helps you in all the others. It's that idea. And as someone who studied psychology and counseling for many years of her life, I will tell you that I never learned the things I learned about my emotions and my thoughts through any of that, the way I learned it with coaching, which is why I think I was so all in on coaching when I found it, because it was teaching me things that counseling and that therapy and that psychology hadn't taught me. And again, it's not that one is better than the other, but for Paige and the way her brain works, coaching just made so much more sense, and it explained things that made such an impact on the way I thought about the world and my experience and my perspective. So doing this hardcore thought work, mindset work, emotion work on my weight loss journey helped me. I just think about emotions and thoughts and your brain in such a different way. I don't know. I can't even think about how I thought about it in the past, which is why I'm glad I have journals and videos, but my brain is just so different now. And it's probably paired with becoming a coach as well, not just my weight loss journey, but doing all of this together, becoming an entrepreneur, becoming a coach, and losing weight. I just understand things on a whole other level. And I love that. That is one of my favorite parts about being a human and having goals and evolving, is you just get to understand yourself more and more and more. And I love that. That's why I just keep going and set new goals and continue to grow. The last thing I learned or gained on this journey was detaching my worth from anything outside of me. So no longer attaching my worth as a human to what I ate or didn't eat, to whether I exercise or not, to what the scale says, to what my body looks like, to what other people think. And of course, this will probably be an ongoing journey, but I really did that work on this journey. I knew that I was going to be working on stopping overeating and not over desiring food as much and stopping emotionally eating. But I think I also knew that I had a lot of deeper work to do about my body and about food and about myself. And so I went ahead and did that deep work of their journey. I didn't just lose weight. I didn't just stop emotional eating. I didn't just stop over desiring food. I really questioned all of my beliefs around food. I questioned all of my thoughts about bodies, or all of them up until that point. And now none of those things have anything to do with my worth. And that's something I'll never attach those things to my worth again. And that, for me, I couldn't have guessed that would be the work and that would be the outcome, but I'm so glad that it is. And that's part of why I'm so passionate about the way I teach weight loss for my clients, is because I know that a lot of those who come to me have their worth tied to all of these things. And I'm like, you may not realize it, but I'm going to help you see it if it's there and help you undo it, just like I did for myself. So those are the top three things I gained from this journey. And there's so much more. There's so much more that I could keep talking about, and I will in other episodes. But these were the ones that I really wanted to tell you about and share with you, because I don't think these are things that we think about when we say we want to lose weight and we want to go on this weight loss journey. And yet these are the three things that I gained from this journey. I didn't go on this journey wanting to detach my worth from all the things outside of me, but I sure as heck did. So I share with you what I've gained on this journey for you to start thinking about what could be possible for you beyond just stop emotional eating, beyond just stopping over desiring food, beyond just the scale moving. There's so much more possible when you go on this journey to change your relationship with food and your emotions and yourself, that you're not even able to know what the outcome is, because the journey is going to show you the things to work on, and then you're going to work on them, and then you're going to come out of it with a new identity, with a new relationship with yourself. And you're going to say, just like me, I had no idea, but dang, I'm glad I went on this journey. Okay. And lastly, what's my journey look like moving forward? So I know I've talked about this in the podcast before, but the number one thing right now is to eat healthier. So I lost 25 pounds, and I did it by, yes, changing my relationship with food and not overeating. But I decided this year to, while I continue to maintain and maybe lose more weight if I want to, but to dive into my food choices and to be more conscious about the things I was putting into my body. I started taking vitamins for the first time ever this year. Just not a vitamin person, but now I am. I started adding vegetables to almost every single meal this year, which for me is huge. I started eating a salad a day, and I have pretty much kept that up the entire year, and it's the end of June now. So my big thing this year is to eat healthier, be more conscious about what I'm putting into my body, and start paying attention even to the way foods feel in my body. Not just is it healthy or good for me, but how does it feel in my body? And something that I might do later on this year is to do some work with my hormones. That's something that I've learned about in a past program that I've worked with is testing foods to see. It's more experimenting, right? Which is something I love and I talk about all the time, but it's testing foods to see which ones you may have allergies to or which ones may bother your stomach. And it's a whole process that I might go ahead and do again this year and learn what foods really just don't feel good and what foods are really feel good to me. I'm also looking to lose another 5 pounds. So to go from 135 to 130, again, doing my work around the number on the scale. I'm giving myself the opportunity to get to 130 and see if I like it. See if, yes, it's just 5 pounds, but let myself see if I want to be 130 and if that's a weight that I want my body to be at or to look like. And instead of telling myself that there's no point or 130 is just not a good number or anything that a past story would have had me thinking, I'm working through all of that. So I'm in my second 5-pound experiment. So I'm experimenting with losing weight and what things to tweak to have my body dining in 5 pounds. I'm having a lot of fun. I don't know if I've said this yet on the podcast, but I am experiencing more drama. I guess it's like the easiest way to say it. And what I realize is maintaining has become easy for me. And I think it's because within my 2 years, I maintained for so long that I think I, without realizing it, taught myself how to maintain. I mean, I knew that's what I was doing, but I realized I got good at it. And with losing, it's bringing up some thoughts that I didn't realize were still there, or new thoughts because I'm growing and I'm changing about losing weight that I'm like, yay, we get to work on some more mindset and get even better at the 3 tools that I teach and that I love so much. And I guess that's the third part of what I'm doing right now and what my journey looks like right now is I just want to keep getting better at these 3 skills, that 3 tools that I teach my clients and that I work on, the 3 steps, allowing urges, and the hunger and fullness scale, because I will always have a brain. I will always be needing food, and my primal brain will always be giving me some sort of urges, will always want pleasure in the now. And even if that lessens, those are skills I want to always have and always be working on. So that's what my journey looks like right now, is eating healthier and making that my natural way of doing things, is to continue to build my mastery in my 3 basic tools and losing another 5 pounds and seeing what my brain offers me when I get there. See if I like it. Maybe I'll gain the 5 pounds back and decide I don't want to be 130. Maybe I want to stay there. Maybe I want to lose another 5 pounds. I don't know. But I know that I'm going to have fun on the other side of seeing what changes I can't even imagine I'll make, or what results I create in my life by going on this journey, even if it's just 5 pounds, because I'm going to have to do the mindset work and the emotional work, and I'm going to have to feel uncomfortable, and good things always come from that, in my opinion. So that's what my journey looks like right now. That's my story of losing 25 pounds. I hope you enjoyed it. I know this is a long one, but I just wanted an episode where that's my story, where you could come and you could listen to what it looked like for me to lose 25 pounds, how long it took, what that journey looked like, what I struggled with, and what I gained from that. So now it's going to be on the podcast, and I love that for me and you. And here's what I want you to know. Now that you've heard my story, you've heard my journey, you've heard the way I think about weight loss and about the abundance and about the changes that you make in your life and in your relationship with yourself. If that's the kind of work you want to do, where you want to lose weight and you want to do it in a way where you don't just change the number on the scale, but you change your mindset. You become someone who pays attention to their emotions, who no longer uses food as a coping mechanism. And then all the other things that come from that journey, if that's what you want, I can help you, because that's the exact kind of work I do with my clients. And I do this in my simple weight loss coaching program. We work one-to-one and we work on the things that you want to change, and that will have you losing 25 pounds or whatever your goal is. And we'll work on what you want to be different in your future, and that will guide our journey. So if you're interested in doing this kind of work with me, you can send me an email at hello@paigebowman.com. Just let me know you're interested. Just send me an email and let me know that you want to get on a consult call where we'll talk about what it would be like to work together. Or you can do the same thing and just do it on Instagram and message me at Life Coach Paige B. All right, y'all, that's it. That's my journey. That's my story. Now it's on the podcast for you to listen to. And I'll see you next week. Bye.